Welcome, everyone, to the episode 25 of the 5-Year Real Estate Career Podcast. Today's topic is a very important topic. Over the past 2 episodes of our podcast, we've talked about the power and the dynamics of doing webinars. Well, today's topic is what should you do with a buyer that's attended a webinar, an open house, you met him at a party, and the next step working with any of those people is to learn a little bit more about them, to schedule a buyer consultation. So today, that is our topic. And it is critically important, especially with all the law changes that have taken place in the country. And we're going to have to sell ourselves, make people understand as realtors the dynamics of what we do for them. So a buyer consultation, helping that person get ready to make a really good buying decision, is what this episode is about. But before we get started, I'd like you to imagine, if you can, starting a real estate business that in 5 short years has the potential, strong potential, to be able to help you earn a living abundantly for the rest of your life. And for those of you that are first-time visitors to our podcast, I know that sounds like hype, but there are over 1,000 people in the company I work for that do not have to work anymore, and many of them did it in less than 5 years. So with that as an introduction, I want to again welcome you to the 5-Year Real Estate Career Podcast. It's a virtual seminar in every single episode. Our job is to educate real estate agents on the dynamics of how to build a successful real estate business. So in today's call, we're going to talk about 3 topics as realtors that we should do in our buyer consultation. We're actually going to talk about 10, but these are 3 of the most important. Number 1, we're going to educate our buyer on why homeownership is the primary driver of wealth in America. Number 2, we're going to educate them about credit, because most buyers really believe that if you've got a credit score that's under 700, you can't get a home anymore. But the reality is that a big portion of the marketplace today has a credit score of 620 or below, and most of them are going to be able to buy a house in today's economy. So that's our job, to educate them. And finally, most buyers don't realize a very significant issue, and that is, as a tenant, they are paying more money than what they would pay if they went out and bought a property. So these are just of the few alarming things that buyers need to be educated about, and we're going to cover the rest in this short call today. But before we do, I want to introduce you to our speaker of the day, somebody that is very close to me for over 20 plus years. I consider him one of the brightest people in real estate that I've ever known. His name is Eric Wilner. We affectionately call him the automatic landlord, and that's really good. And the reason why that's really good is Eric has learned how to take hundreds of tenants and help them get ready to make a buying decision. So with that introduction, also Eric is the founder of the longest running radio show in the US on real estate and on finance. And we're lucky to have him as part of our podcast today. He's a permanent part of every podcast, but we consider him a specialist in today's topic. So with that, Eric, I'm going to turn this call over to my brilliant friend.
Well, we also can't forget our good friend, Mr. Patrick Butler over here, the Mr. Go Vertical. And we're not talking about roller coaster rides. We're talking about one of the most powerful techniques for generating leads and building a business fast. So we got a great topic today, one of the most important things that every real estate agent ought to know right now is how to assess their buyer's readiness. Let's not waste any of our time. Let's not waste any of our money. And let's not also waste the really positive energy. When someone comes to you to buy a home, they're excited. They're in a really good place, albeit obviously with a lot of doubt. So they're counting on you to be the big brother, the guide, the mentor, the coach. So that's why all those things that you were talking about are so true, that we need to do that and we need to be that for our clients. So that's basically what we want. So let's start off talking first of all about understanding your financial health. And right here, I'm going to tell you that I always tell people right up front, say, listen, give yourself grace. Okay. Your situation is what it is today. Okay. And your situation today is a result of the decisions you made in the past. To have a better future, now we got to make better decisions. And it starts with taking that, what I call a snapshot of where I'm at. What is my credit score? It is what it is. Okay. It just is. And we're going to have to deal with it. Number one. Number two, what is my down payment situation? Again, it is what it is. If you don't have any down payment, well, depends on if you're a veteran, that may not matter. If you working with an experienced real estate agent that understands down payment assistance programs, it also may not matter. There are a number of different ways, and that's why understanding your financial health is the foundation for your readiness to buy, and helping the clients to see that in a in a kind and understanding way makes that buying experience much better. And that includes knowing their credit score. It's a subject most people don't even think about, let alone want to talk about. Their debt levels, their savings, because obviously not only are we looking at their down payment and their credit, but what after they have all their other expenses, what do they really have left over for making a housing payment?
Yeah.
And so we can use financial calculators and other things to assess that. But go ahead, Patrick, you were going to add something.
So it's funny, and I think this is important, why the home buying webinar or live seminar is so important too. If I go to a car dealership, they want to look at my financial health, and chances are they're going to try and sell me a car while I'm sitting there, even if I'm not in the mood to buy one. They'll be like, well, and I feel the pressure. And I think sometimes a reason why many potential or prospective home buyers don't take this super critical first step is they fear somebody's going to try and jam a house down their throat. When the reality is, I wish they could just understand, look, this is a no cost entry into the game to understand where you fit. And to your point about savings, I always tell buyers, the last thing you need in a real estate transaction, the very last thing is the money. You don't need it in the beginning. You need it when you go to closing. So don't worry about that right now. There are other angles of attack, gift loans, down payment assistance, veterans, whatever. The money's the least of everybody's worries, right? We can deal with that part. But yeah, man, I mean, it's so vital to know that. Now, I'm going to tell you, after I went through my divorce back in the 90s, my credit got whacked, and I won't get into all the gory details, but I then sold my house. Well, I didn't sell it. I bequeathed it to the ex. But it was a couple of years, and I said, let me check my situation out. Let me see if I'm close to getting a mortgage, because I knew my credit got whacked. And I went to a friend in the mortgage business, and lo and behold, he goes, yeah, man, you're pre-approved for 385, blah, blah, blah. I was shocked. I didn't realize that everything got fixed by that time. And I bought the house that I'm still living in today. It was a short sale. It was a great deal. I bought it with tons of equity in it. And if I didn't take that first step, I don't know what would have happened in my real estate ownership mode. So good stuff to know.
Eric,
and you also bring up the point that, finding a good qualified mortgage broker. You want that as part of your team. Yeah. It is so important because, it's not just, plug in the numbers and that's what it is. There are ways, and the more experienced the agent that you have, or the more experienced the agent's team is, the more options will be on the table. And, I think we all agree that everyone should own a home, and everyone can own a home if they're cooperative and they're coachable.
Yep.
Yeah. And Eric, I just have to say something that is wise, sterling advice. Do not sell people ever. Educate people and they will buy from you. And that's what all realtors, especially new people, try to do. Sell.
Yep.
Simply educate, which is the most important thing you can learn early in your career, because people will run to you when you educate them and run away from you when you sell them.
Very true. Yep.
Yeah. So that's number one, is take that financial snapshot, understand your financial health. It will benefit you in more ways than just buying the house. Number one. Number two, now that we know where our starting point is, our point A, now let's find out point B. Let's set clear goals of what we're going to do. And this is very important about setting the expectations, everybody's expectations. You want a happy client at the end of this game? Set realistic expectations, but it's based on what? Well, that was step one, assessing your financial readiness. Now, you've probably heard of SMART goals before, right? And to me, when I learned this and I really internalized this, it was a game changer, because we all set New Year's resolutions, right? This year, I'm going to lose weight. Well, what does that mean? Okay. I'm going to lose what? Well, how much weight? When are you going to lose it? How are you going to lose it? And so SMART is an acronym that stands for specific. How much weight do you want to lose? I mean, if you lose a pound, are you done? No, most of the time it's not.
Yeah.
So specific, I want to lose 10 pounds by the end of the year, which means that there's 6 months left of the year. And so now I have 6 months, and every month that means hopefully I got 1/6 of my goal. So SMART is specific. Measurable, right? We're talking about pounds, where it's measurable. I can quantify and see the progress. Achievable. Now, if I wanted to lose 100 pounds, right, and I weigh 160, that's neither a good idea, but probably not realistic to happen anyway, right? If I wanted to be a black belt in 1 year, again, noble goal, not likely to happen. Okay. So you got to set what are challenging but achievable, realistic goals. Number three is relevant. So now, if we're talking about buying a house, we want to end up as a homeowner. So everything that I have to do has to be specific, measurable, how much I save, what I'm doing, all the different steps, the mortgage application, etc., towards that end goal, and so everything that I do needs to be relevant. That's the R in this. And T, for example, in the home buying process, well, we've got a contract. So we got 60 days, for 30 days, whatever the contract says. And you as the realtor are going to guide them to set the contract with the realistic expectations, because you did step one and you understood exactly where they're at right now and what they can do. So any other comments on setting clear goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So to me, when working with buyers or even sellers, I'll come back to the sellers in a second. This is one of the most important parts of building that relationship with them. If we met them at a webinar, they've learned some of the key tactics to home buying. But now, and that's just general, that's for everybody. But now I want to talk to them and say, hey, what are your goals? Are you looking to raise a family? Why are you thinking about buying a home? Is it to build wealth? What are your hot buttons, right? So that I can get to know about your mindset. Maybe you're a budding new investor that's looking to, flip properties. Well, these are all different goals they can be smart, they can be measurable, but that's part of getting them emotionally involved in the process. And after we've done the financial analysis, we may know that, well, it'll probably be a good year before you're ready to go. But I will tell you this, a person that has the dream and the fire inside from this conversation on goals will probably do a much better job at saving money, getting their credit improved, because they've got something that they're shooting for in a timetable, than those that are just willy-nilly going about their life. So this is a great roadmap opportunity for us to not only help them get the vision, but also figure out when we need to plug them into the various parts of the process. When do we actually need to get them approved for a loan when they're ready? When do we need to start looking at homes when they've been financially approved for a property, and so on? It's a great way to go. Last comment on that. I was always a strong listing agent. And whenever I would talk to a seller who was thinking of overpricing their property, I would ask them, where are you moving to after this? And when they had no idea, I realized they were just putting their toe in the pool, testing the waters. They didn't have a real goal. Once they figured out where they were moving to, that house was going to sell, and they would do whatever they needed to with the price, because then they had a target. So having a target is really vital in life for anything.
That's a great point. That's a great point. So now let's move on to number 3, which is, we're going to come back to the credit score, because it's one of the 3 main factors. And here's the beautiful thing about this, and like you were surprised when in your own situation, and I'll bet you all of us have at one point in time says, have I maxed out my capability, only to find out that there are programs out there. So we want to aim, right? Because most of the programs today have a minimum credit score of 620. But that is not the absolute minimum. There are programs that go a little bit lower than that, as low as 580. And there are even programs, we have a program called Your Down Payment is Your Approval. Okay. So it just means if you come with a little bit more down payment, they'll bypass, because they know you're putting enough skin in the game. And having that tool in your back pocket can make the difference between keeping a sale, keeping your customer motivated to move forward, versus losing them because of miss or lack of information. So look at the credit report, and work with your mortgage professional. Take the steps. You can always make recommendations on how to improve your score. Today, I was talking on my radio show, and I was saying there is not a credit report that cannot be restored. Okay.
Amen.
So it's never the end of the game. I've seen credit scores go from the 700s to the 400s back to the 700s. Okay. And higher. I've met, physically spoken with people with the perfect 850 credit score. So it's not a, hypothetical thing, like walking on water. This is something that by algorithms, by formulas, can be achieved. So putting your client in the best possible light and setting them up, educating them, like Skip was just saying. He says, if you educate them on all these great points, first of all, they'll never leave you, because you'll be such a great source of not only knowledge, but confidence, that they're going to not only never leave you, they're also going to bring more people to you.
Yep.
So let's go on to number 4. So the 3 key things that most lenders are going to look at is, number 1, credit score, number 2, down payment. So let's talk a little bit about creating your savings plan. And Patrick, you made a comment about depending on what stage of the process there are. You see, think about it this way. The stages of home buying begin the day that you decide. Okay. Nothing's happened yet, right? We haven't assessed our financial, but I decided, and that's a key point. So everybody, the minute that they decide, they can start the process. They may not be ready, they may not be ready to even apply, let alone be approved, which I'll say is the end. Once you're approved, then it's just a matter of closing. So everywhere in between is one of the stages. And what a great real estate agent does is give the people the confidence to know, welcome, get in the process, get in the process. And then we're going to figure out, create the realistic expectations when that closing can happen. So creating that savings plan starts the day, you have decided to buy. It is what it is that I have to do. We're back to our SMART goals. So now let's talk about the income, the third big factor, right? These are the 3 things that you're going to address. Credit score, one way or another. Down payment, one way or another. Neither of those 2, by the way, stop you from entering the process, right? Nor do they stop you from completing the process. Now, the third one will. Okay, the third one, which is more important, which is your ability to repay. You've got to convince the lender, you've got to convince the world that you have the ability to pay. Now, I often say that if you can afford to pay rent, you can afford to own. So we're already halfway there. But there's something called a debt to income ratio. I'm sure you've heard of it as a real estate agent. But lenders use the debt to income ratio to evaluate your ability to manage monthly payments. So you want to look for a debt to income ratio, right? Take home pay minus all of your expenses. What do you have left? And you want to get, because statistically, that's all it is statistically, loans perform better when the debt to income ratio is 36% or less. So that's the starting point. Any comments?
Yeah, I have two comments, Eric. As a former mortgage professional and a current first-time homebuyer specialist, I find that a lot of real estate agents, this call is all about helping our real estate agents become better at counseling and educating people. And I find that a lot of novice beginners do not want to learn a lot about the mortgage process. And they lose that customer to another real estate agent who has taken the time to learn what you're talking about today. Because not every mortgage professional is professional. And so if I have an opportunity to be able to perhaps coach my buyer at our buyer consultation about what you just spoke about and understand it, I'm really, really making sure that that person doesn't get bad information and decide not to move forward. So as a real estate agent, I urge you to partner with a good mortgage person who will educate you about what he does. It'll save you deal after deal after deal. And it will also make that consumer, the buyer, a lot more confident in using you over the massive amount of real estate agents that are out there. That's how strongly I feel. I cannot tell you how many times I've saved a transaction that could have been lost. My knowledge in mortgages helped me save it.
And by the way, this point in the process is a real fork in the road. Right now, after we've assessed these three things, you've got people that are ready, even though they might not be mentally ready, but they're financially ready to go right this minute. Then there are people that are mentally ready to go, but not quite financially ready and need a little bit of assistance. And then you've got the train wreck, the person that is horrible in all three of these categories. And I hate to say it, but as real estate professionals, those aren't the folks that we should be working with, because we want to work with those that can execute a transaction. But there are lots of other partnerships we can have, whether it's a credit repair company or a HUD counselor on first-time homebuyer programs, that can work with these folks until they get to that point where they're closer to ready. And then all our job is staying in touch with them as a nurturing consultant, but always remembering that we don't need to put them in our car, if we ever put them in our cars, until they are financially ready to go. So that's a big thing. And I'll tell you what, when I was a brand new agent, I threw people in the car all the time. I had no clue if they could buy a house or not. And guess what? Many of them didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, the industry has evolved a lot. There was that one time where, housewives, part-timers, pizza delivery people were all in the real estate business. Everybody had a real estate license, and everybody thought that because they had a real estate license, they were going to make, 6% commissions on big numbers. But most people found out that that was not the case. That's why most real estate agents, don't start making income for the first 3 to 6 months, right? It's because they don't know what they don't know. Remember that. You want to go back to one of our previous podcasts where we were talking about the conscious and unconscious, competence. But this is what it's really all about, right? Is having this. And by the way, stick around till the end, because I'm going to show you how to get a copy of our 10 steps so that you can have a copy for yourself. But so far, steps 1 through 5, we haven't even gotten into a car or gone looking for houses, which is the first thing that homeowners want to do. They want to set an appointment to go look at some houses, and the professional, the 5-year career agent that knows what they're doing and is on point, knows that I got 5 items we got to take care of first. Number 6 being stabilize your employment, because you see, when lenders evaluate what your income is, they like to look back at 2 years past experience, right? Because they look at 2 years, whether you've been in business for yourself for 2 years, whether you've been working for 2 years. And more importantly, and never discussed, is the likelihood of continuation, right? So if you're a solid business owner, okay, they're on track. That's a good bet. If you're in an employment situation but you've been job hopping all along, that gives the lender pause, and they want to know, well, this guy doesn't seem to hold a job very long. What is the the likelihood that they're going to continue? So stabilizing your employment and income are crucial for the mortgage employment during that process. Remember, the day that we start until the day that we close, no change in employment, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great way to ruin all the progress that you've made in the process. So changing jobs or industries during the home buying process is a no-no. Speak with your mortgage professional. I mean, if you got a job offer, it's a promotion, same line of work, and you're making it better, there's things we have to do
Hey,
first.
you know what? On that same note, the flip side of this conversation, we have a great buyer. They've been through the credit, income, and debt to income and savings piece. They should be reminded as well. Don't start jacking up your credit. Don't get a whole bunch of new credit cards. Don't buy expensive items. Don't buy a new car or furniture in anticipation of your home. Keep everything going the way it is. Do all of that after you've made your home purchase. You'll be very happy that you did that. So,
Patrick, that makes my point. You talk like you know and understand the mortgage process, which as a good coach, you want to be able to coach that buyer, and that buyer consultation is, as a realtor who this call is for, you want to do what Patrick just did so that you don't put a person in your car, sell them a piece of property, and then 90 days later, 60 days later, he can't close because he wasn't counseled properly. And that's why learning enough about the mortgage side is critical.
yeah, and when they drive up in a fancy car wearing very expensive sneakers and a lot of bling bling, that doesn't mean that they're wealthy buyers. They could be completely leveraged to the hilt and have nothing going for them as a buyer. So
Especially in South Florida, boys, in Boca Raton.
follow the process, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, that reminds me. My ex-wife used to complain all the time that my tenants had better TVs and better electronics and better cars than I did. And well, now she's a tenant too. So
Yeah.
anyway, the point I wanted to make now is number 7. Now we're ready to get going, right? Understand that the real estate market is it's a dynamic thing. It's as a living, breathing, constantly changing. Understanding your real estate market in where they want to desire, because now we've assessed our financial situation. We've set clear goals. We went over the 3 key important factors that it's going to take to get them to the closing table. Now it's time to do their market research and then move forward and go out and go look at properties, look at the right properties, the properties that they will be able to close on. I mean, there's nothing worse, okay? And those of you who have been realtors for a while know this. There's nothing worse than not having set the expectations properly. They go out, they find the home of their dreams, find out that they can't have it, and then instead of readjusting their expectations, at that point they're so disappointed they say, forget it, I'm just going to continue to rent. And everybody lost in that. And that was really whose fault? It was the agent's professionalism's fault there for not having built those that step-by-step process.
Yep.
So any comments on the market?
No, to your point though, it's constantly changing, and so that's kind of like the spear fisherman or the hunter waiting. Once you've got the spear poised at the ready, you need to strike, and hopefully you're prepared at that point in time, right? I mean, but you can also research the market just to learn a little bit too. That's why setting these SMART goals are so important. There might be that phase where you're saying to the folks, yeah, go on Zillow, look at realtor.com, check out my website for properties that are for sale, just to get a feel for what's happening in the marketplace. And again, that might be motivating them and in terms of doing the things that they've got to do to get financially prepared. So, it's okay to do those things, but again, we've got to make sure that we are not putting out too much time for folks that can't execute until the appropriate time.
And on that point though, understand, remember the first 5 points, we haven't even gone out looking at properties yet. Spend a little extra time in the beginning. It will save you, multiples of time later on. It'll save you time, disappointment, energy, and everything else. So at this point, we're now looking at the marketplace. make sure that we've put in process now, we got the theory of the mortgage approval. Now let's put it to practice. Get pre-approved, not pre-qualified. We always want to emphasize that those words are sometimes used interchangeably. Pre-qualified means you told somebody what the story is. And remember, a lot of people overestimate or over understand what they earn and underestimate what they spend. And that's why that process that we talked about in the beginning was so important. Remember, it's the net. Yeah, go ahead, Skip.
Hey, this is probably, in my humble opinion, one of the biggest single issues that new agents, even but newer agents, experience this problem. They get a pre-qualification letter from a mortgage guy and assume that transaction is going to close. That is a dangerous thing to do, because you will spend hours and hours and hours on a pre-qualification letter and find out later that buyer was never able to buy a property for a number of reasons. Maybe the loan officer wasn't that experienced. Maybe the buyer didn't fully disclose all of the data that the loan officer needed in order to issue a pre-approval. Do not, as a realtor, longtime realtor, great success in selling real estate, do not ever work with a buyer until they have a pre-approval letter. If you really want safety, security, show them a property, take the pre-qual letter, but get the pre-approval before you invest your life in educating that person.
Very true.
100%. And the earlier that you got them ready for that pre-approval stage, the better. And now you're on solid footing. So now we've got everything going. We're working with a well-educated, realistic, approved buyer. That's how closings happen. And if you can systemize this, then you've got a business that will not only reward you handsomely today, but as we go deeper into the layers of the 5-year career, you're going to see how this is one integral part. Professional agents do these things. And now let's talk about beyond the closing, right? Because if you followed up with this, you're highly probable going to have a closing now. So now think about the long terms and how buying a home fits into those plans that they have. Are they planning to stay in the area? Are they planning to grow their family? These are great reasons to stay in contact with the people that you sell, so that you're not one of the majority of realtors that sell one home to one person one time. You see, think about it. If people move or change residences somewhere between every 7 to 10 years, just in their professional career, forget about retirement even, they're going to do probably 5 to 7 transactions. And it's really a mystery to me why even today most agents sell one home to one client, and the next agent is the one that was top of mind at that time. Now you've already got a success story here. You help them, and what you need to do is create and watch those long terms. Do you anticipate significant life changes? Wayne Gretzky has a very famous saying that the reason behind his success wasn't because he was skating to where the puck was. He was always skating to where the puck was going. And that's why he was always there ahead of the competition and ready to score. So if you anticipate, stay in contact, I'm going to tell you that it's going to guide your business, and you will be a 5-year career
So
agent.
you're saying Wayne Gretzky really knew what the puck he was doing.
Remember, this is a family show. This is a family show.
And Eric, you're so spot on about that. In fact, I've heard that same statistic too, that realtors rarely sell more than one transaction to the same customer, even though they had a great experience. But there are some things that we can also do. In fact, I was just talking with Skip before we got on this. I met some folks that do a phenomenal free service that they will analyze property owners' taxes and insurance to see if they're overpaying for them. Free service. And they'll do that every single year. And if they identify where that is happening, for free. They will go and negotiate the settlement on that. They get paid. They do have an in-house attorney. They get paid a piece of what they save, but they save on the average of $2,000 every time they do that assessment. Well, that's a great way to stay in touch with current homeowners that you've worked with. Because, man, if you sell them, I mean, if you save them money on their property taxes or their insurance, that's a big deal. And then that's a great opportunity to talk a little bit about real estate again. How are things going? How are the kids? Oh, we had a third one. Oh my gosh. You must be bursting at the seams in that 2-bedroom condo. Yeah, we're actually talking about moving right now. Whoa, I'm glad we.
Funny you should say that, right?
Yes.
Hey, sign me up for that. But everybody in America wants to pay less taxes
Yeah.
to the federal government, to the state government. So any service of that nature, as a real estate agent on this call, if you can help your past clients save money, who are they going to call? Not Ghostbusters. They're going to call you.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. And and that brings us to number 10, is that you want to establish yourself as the professional, as the source. Hey, if I need a handyman, I'm going to call Skip. Hey, if I need a plumber, hey, I got to call my agent Patrick. Hey, if I need an accountant, I'm going to call my agent. My agent knows everybody. He is the glue for the community. And when you work with a professional, when you are the professional, people will work with you, including all of the other professionals, that they're going to remember you as the source of the referrals, whether it's your financial advisor, your mortgage broker, the accountant, the plumber, all of those people are going to remember you because you were different. You were different because you were professional.
No question about it.
So on that note, by the way, first of all, Patrick, I want to take my hat off to you because you just gave me an idea. Over the years, I've sold on average 5 to 7 properties to people. And that's because I work with investors. One investor by himself bought 11 single family homes. Okay. So think about that in the context of a 5-year career, that when you have a relationship, okay, and then whether, the different modalities that we talk about on this podcast, and you can go through some of our past videos, depending on what your interest is, there's a 5-year career path for you. And so let's break down just the tools really quick as we wrap up our program today. Experts, you, the person, probably the most valuable in there all the way along. We have workshops, and I invite you to come check out one of our free workshops. As an agent, come and look and see through the eyes of a first-time home buyer how professional and not only how professional, but how friendly and inviting. They're very casual, but these are opportunities for you to be able to see exactly what we're talking about. One of the best ways to get literally a flood of leads to work with, of people who have raised their hands because they attended the workshop. You're talking one to many, and you'll see for yourself what it's like, what they're going to see. And wouldn't you like to be able to do and offer the same thing? So
Eric, can you guys see the QR code on the screen?
I do.
Yeah, we can. Hey, and Eric,
Take
you
a
actually
picture of that.
stole.
That'll get you registered for our next webinar.
Yeah, and I
Beautiful.
have to say this, Eric, you stole exactly what I was going to say at the end of my presentation. But the very best way for any of us in the real estate industry is to market ourselves to large numbers of people. And the best way to do that is a webinar on investment property, a webinar on new construction, a webinar on first-time home buyers, a webinar on affinity marketing. Any of these webinars, you have an opportunity, and you're lucky that you're on this call because we have a do-it-for-you program, and that's something we're not going to talk about on today's call, but if you have any interest at all, step number 1 is register, check us out, watch one of our webinars on one of the topics I just spoke about, and you will get excited about learning how to do this in your local market. One agent, one loan officer, one title company, one county across this country, there's going to be somebody that takes advantage of that opportunity. And as we close today, I just, I get excited. I don't know why. I've been doing this for over 40 years. I still get excited about helping people, and that's what webinars do en masse. So I want to thank Eric and Patrick for their major contribution to today's call. I think that if you're a real estate agent and you really want to succeed, you need good coaches. Part of our Do It For You program offers coaching opportunities that are free to help you develop a webinar program. So we want you to connect with us. And the best way to connect with us is, what is that number, Eric? Do you have that number readily available for people to reach out to us who have a serious interest in learning more about how to be a rock star real estate agent?
Yeah, if you missed the QR code, Patrick put it back up on the screen. You can also text the word FIVE, FIVE, and then we'll get you registered. We'll send you the link for you to get registered for our next upcoming webinar. And we're doing those on a very frequent basis. So text the word FIVE to 561-861-2366. That's 561-861-2366, or just take a picture of the QR code right here and we'll get you there. And that
Eric,
gives you,
if they text the word discovery to that same phone number, that'll set up an appointment to chat with us about possibly doing this program. And again, no obligations. It's part of the process, folks. We talk about it. We educate.
Yep. So I want to thank everybody who attended today's podcast. I know that today you learned something valuable that you'll be able to use in your real estate career. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. We can always improve, and we'd love to hear from you. Your feedback means the world to us. And how do you do that? You go to our YouTube channel at 5 Year Career, and you can subscribe and learn and see all the prior episodes that we've developed to help real estate agents succeed in today's very tough and changing real estate career. So stay tuned for more exciting content in our upcoming episodes. Follow us again on our YouTube channel. And remember, this is the most important thing. Don't just listen. Use this information to build a successful 5-year real estate career. Thanks for being with us. Have an awesome day. It's a great day for golf in Pensacola. Bye.